So we've had obviously some incredible speakers and presenters all day. A buddy of mine and I were talking recently, and he said, hey, what do you, like, if it was just like people like me and you, and that's what we kind of like evolved as or to, like over a few millennia, you know, where would we be? We thought about it, we kind of talked about it. We'd have wheels, they'd be square, kind of rounded edges at that point, and that would be the extent of it. Fortunately for all of us, it wasn't just people like me and him. Some incredible people that you've seen today, and one of the individuals I'm about to bring up here in just a few minutes will absolutely blow your mind. Dr. Ajay Seth saw a need to build an arm, a prosthetic that could feel. I could try to explain this to you a little bit more, but he was featured along with his patient Melissa Loomis on TV's The Doctors, and I think you get a little bit better vibe for what they went through. Check this out. Ajay Seth and his patient Melissa Loomis.
Thank you very much. Melissa and I are coming from Ohio, and I want to thank Mark Blumenthal who invited us. Mark called me a couple months ago and said, you know, we would love to have you come down to Tampa in March, and that's all I heard, because when you're in Ohio and you can come down to Tampa in March, I don't care if it was a circus, I was coming down. So thank you very much, Mark, and all the volunteers. You guys have done a phenomenal job, and especially Lauren Prager, who's back there, has done a phenomenal job. Probably spent most of her time trying to get me prepared. So, and I gotta say one thing to my wife, and then I can start. So, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, as I said, from Canton, Ohio. A town about 80,000, Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I do hand, elbow, shoulder surgery. I'm in private practice. Do about 20 to 30 surgeries a week and see patients. And as you saw in the video, unfortunately, Melissa here lost her arm to a real severe infection. Without a perfect, phenomenal patient like Melissa, I wouldn't be here today. I mean, she's the reason this worked. And when I say this worked, we did something that people around the world think is pretty advancing, or pretty advanced technology, and we're advancing technology. And the reason is the surgery that I did allowed Melissa to feel a prosthetic hand. I love it. I can do a surgery for 16 hours and I can't operate a thing. So the next slide, I'll tell you what I think is, thank you. It talks about what I told Melissa. I said to Melissa when I took her arm that I'm gonna make you the most advanced amputee in the world. And in order to do that, I did a surgery that had been done once before in the world, and that was done in Canada. And everybody told me, there's no way you could get someone to feel, you know, a piece of metal. And being from a small town, everybody also gave us pretty much no chance of getting this to work. Melissa talked about doing this for wounded warriors, and the fact that if we can get someone who sacrificed their arm for our country back to an arm that they can move and feel, and we save one person from going down a really dark road, everything we did is worth it. I pretty much tried to talk her out of the surgery because I had never done it before, nobody had, and I actually learned how to do it in 5 minutes on the phone, and she never knew that till after the surgery, but it ended up working out well. So here's a real quick, easy way to explain what I did. The brain sends impulses to muscles, and it goes down from brain, nerve, muscle twitches, firing. No different than a speaker. You have your control center, goes down speaker wire, goes to a speaker, it emits sound. Well, Melissa lost her hand and her forearm, so it's not there. But her brain continues to send messages to tell her hand to open or close. But it's a dead end. And I think that's what causes phantom pain, which is really something, if you haven't heard about it or you have, that can take people to really dark places, and it's even led people to commit suicide. And the reason is, I believe that nerve doesn't have anywhere to go. The messages are just basically like falling off a cliff. So this surgery was developed by two gentlemen in Chicago at Northwestern. What they said was, okay, why don't we just take the nerves and the wires that were cut, just put them into another speaker, and in her case, the muscles of the upper arm. So the idea is that when Melissa thinks, open my hand, it goes to the biceps, it twitches, her hand will open. Same thing about closing your hand. She thinks, close my hand, goes to a muscle, the muscle fires, we pick it up, and the prosthetic closes. Opens. But then I thought, what if we take it one step further? What if we see, can we trick the brain into thinking that she really regrew a hand? Can I trick her brain and take the wire that closed her hand and split it open, and then take the nerve that gives feeling, put it in one place, the nerve that closed the hand into the muscle. So I was basically going to see if I could trick her brain. Our nervous system is a two-way street. You touch something hot, the impulse goes to your brain. Your brain says, move my arm, it sends it right back down. And I wanted to find in that one nerve, does she have anything that I can identify that goes backwards? So my wife came up with this great analogy, and it works well, like a piece of licorice. You have so many strands, but if you open up the strands, that's like opening up the inside of a nerve. And I used a microscope that was 20 times powered, and it's like a piece of hair, that's how big it is. But when I opened up her nerve, I found one little fascicle out of 20 that went backwards. So what I did was, I took that nerve, and I'm going to show on Melissa's arm, where this band is, I took that nerve and I transferred it to the inside of her arm. The other part I put into her muscle. And what I wanted to do is say, thumb, index, middle finger nerves, do we have the possibility that they would grow on her skin so that when you touch the skin, her brain doesn't realize she doesn't have a hand. The brain will think this is the hand. So the surgery was 16 hours, 2 chicken nuggets and a soda, if you're wondering what I ate during that time. The minute she woke up, her phantom pain was pretty much gone. And when you meet her after this, you can come meet her. She'll tell you her hand was in a vice grip, and it's like licking a 9-volt battery. After she woke up, she said it was gone. So I don't know, maybe I found a way to get rid of the phantom pain. And then 4 weeks later, she started to be able to move the muscle. So I would say, Melissa, close your hand, and that inner part of the biceps would twitch. And I'm like, wow, that worked. And then 6 weeks, what should have been 8 months, if it worked, happened. I took a cotton swab and I rubbed it on the inside, and she's like, I feel it. I can feel my thumb. And at that point, we felt like we did it. We proved that you can move and feel a prosthetic arm. The biggest thing that differs us, and you'll see it on a couple slides, is So I did this at a local hospital. I'm a private practice doctor. I didn't implant anything in her body. There's nothing implanted. All I did was, and I always say this, I just rewired a bunch of nerves. It's not that difficult. She really got it to work because of her mindset, but I don't think I did a lot. So we've been doing research with the only arm in the world that can move and feel, and it's made by DARPA, Modular Prosthetic Limb at Johns Hopkins University. We were at a conference that people at Walter Reed had us go, and they were basically telling us that everybody's in the lab trying to implant things in the body to get you to feel, and I think that's great. But they said, you already accomplished what everybody's trying to do. You did it with no money, no research funding, and you just showed you could do this without implanting anything. So that's the biggest key we always say, and I get information from people all the time. Well, here's an article of someone who felt, and I'm like, you got implanted wires in them. And there's a few that can do that. And there's nothing wrong with that avenue. I'll never say my way is better than theirs. But I'm always like, this is permanent. Her hand is regrown permanently. It's not going to change. And the interesting thing about Melissa is she's an insulin-dependent diabetic who had a bad infection. So this really shouldn't have worked, but she got it to work. So I'm going to show you some videos. And this is Melissa in 2016. So it was about, 4 or 5 months after the surgery. One real quick thing, Melissa had no clue she was coming on stage till that's our relationship, till about 3 minutes ago. So she's so excited that I do this to her. Melissa is just thinking in her mind to move that prosthetic arm. So what happens is, whenever she thinks, it goes to her muscle, twitches, and she can now move every single finger on that hand. So here it is. This is the thing that pretty much made history. If you look here, there's a device on her right arm. Her father got to do this. I'm like, would you like to do the honors to see if she can really feel? And so it was kind of an emotional thing because her father would now be able to feel his daughter's hand again. And so he's going to press on the fingers. She's really soft-spoken, so I made her use her left hand to tell us what happens and what she feels. So that's about 5 months after surgery, and that's how far we came at that point. Okay, this video to me is probably one of the better videos we have, and shows how advanced Melissa was at 5 months. I no longer let her look at the prosthetic arm because I wanted to see how far her brain has come. That's an empty styrofoam cup. And I told her, the minute you feel the cup, don't crush it, and it's empty. So she has to see when she feels it and not to crush it. So she has the touch and ability to feel that cup, which I think is incredible. So what brings me to Tampa is this video right here. I started to look at Melissa, and this video on the left is from 2016, and the video on the right is a year later. And this is what I think is going to change the world. And it's because I think we have shown something that I really have never seen nor thought could happen. But on the left is the first day. If you look at her, she's kind of in this Zen place, she says, that she's really, really concentrating on what she has to do. On the right is 1 year later. I want you to watch the door. Somebody's going to go through the door and the door is going to close. And then you're going to watch Melissa look at the door. So this is 1 year later. Whatever she thinks on her right, she's supposed to do on her left again. They now move simultaneously. So what I realized is, if you watch her, it's almost boring to her now to do this. She lost concentration on the arm, and the arm went kind of limp. And then, when she was looking back, before she put her face where it was before, the arm started moving. And we're now getting to the point where she subconsciously can move that arm because her brain is showing that it really thinks she's regrown the arm. I call this making of a Jedi, and I think she's as close to a Jedi as there is. This is the arm, and I tell her there's no volume, it's to extend your elbow. Then I'll tell her to flex the elbow. Then I tell her to rotate her wrist. I believe, no, open your hand. Rotate your wrist. She's nowhere. She's in a room 50 yards away, closed door. She hears my voice, has to interpret it, and then she does it without seeing it. So she can control that arm anywhere in the world by just thinking. Close my hand, and the arm will close. And that's how far she's come now. So what did I learn, and what are... And I'm going to let her speak at the end, tell you what she feels. Yeah, she's got no choice. So what did I learn? Well, can we control objects in our surrounding with our brain? And it sounds crazy, but I think I've come up with a way to do that. And I don't need to do a surgery. I don't need to implant anything in you. See, the question to me is, do we take technology and put it into the human body, or do we use our human brain to attack technology? There's no greater computer than what God gave us to me than the brain. When you are on a keyboard typing, everybody, I mean, I've asked this question, you can think of it. Everybody says they can type, but guess what? If I asked you which finger hits the X key with your hands closed, very few people can do it, but they can type. Well, then I realized, well, how does that happen? I give you a keyboard with no letters, you can type. I give you a blank keyboard and say, fill in the letters, it's like you can't do it. To hit the U key takes 13 muscles. I counted them. And being an orthopedic surgeon, and I just worked on the arm, I realized that within split seconds, almost the speed of sound, we are firing impulses to those 13 muscles to hit one key. And think about how fast you type. That's how quick our brain can work. Well, in 1844, they came up with the Morse code. And I realized that all our body is we have part A, part B, and there's a wire in between. And that's what Morse code came up with. So we have the brain, the nerve, the muscle. So I thought, what if we just pick up that electrical voltage? And that's what muscles do. We send an electrical current, the muscle contracts, we can pick it up. No different than a telegram. Indians, people years and years ago had the same system. They would use smoke signals. As long as A and B understand the signal, you can do whatever you want. So, in essence, like I said, all we are doing is picking up electrical current, just like a light bulb turning on, anything like that. So, here's where I'm at now. I have realized that I can move 24 muscles in my arm, which means I can send 24 signals. And I can teach people to do this. the band that we use has been commercialized for a while, and it's picking up muscular activities. But I'm taking it one step further. I'm saying I can get you to think, contract my biceps, and I can get a drone to fly. And here's the interesting thing. If you have a joystick and you want to fly a drone, there's a lot of human error. You have to take the joystick up. So your brain sends the electric current, multiple muscles go, you got to take it perfectly straight. So there's so much error that could be there. I've taken out that human error. I can put a drone down, I can sit, think, fire my biceps, and the command will send it, and the drone flies. I have now taken myself in a room, hands tied, legs tied, like you were taken captured as a hostage for our military. And I can move individual fingers. And I showed this in another room. There's a typewriter, I don't know who uses that anymore, but a computer is typing on the keyboard. So I did H-E-L-P. So I'm in one room, hands behind my back, feet tied, and I still remember it's just 4 different motions, and it said H-E-L-P. And I can take that computer anywhere in the world, and here's the greatest thing about it. I don't need an expensive, huge computer to follow me. I simply have a smartphone, the band, and my brain. Not too complicated, and the great thing is, I've shown it working. So where are we today? The great thing about what this Synapse Summit has done is it's bringing people from all over the place and sharing ideas. I'm no special person. I'm not somebody who's greater than anybody else. But I think God gave 2 people in a small town skills to advance technology and show sometimes technology comes in the smallest towns in America. So my technology at this point, I want to take it to the point where we can use it in the automotive industry. I can show you that rather than taking your hands off the steering wheel, you can control things with your fingers on the steering wheel. Well, we have voice command, we have a couple commands here, but I can keep your hands on the steering wheel. I can flip a map, heads-up display. I can do anything with hand control, mind control. And so if you look at it, NASA space program, our military, I've been working with, I think, and you know, we have the ability now to make our military warfighters the greatest in the world. And everything I do can be done remotely, so we keep our soldiers out of harm's way. EOD, the bomb detonators were talking to me. I can have a hand across a mile away holding a bomb, know how much pressure they're putting, just like on Melissa, and it'll send the signal back to me. So we're just 2 people in a small town that ended up doing something that everybody said we couldn't do. I know we're almost out of time, but I want Melissa to say just a little bit real quick about what you can feel. And we're in Hub 1. Come talk to her, because there's no one like her in the world. She's the most advanced amputee in the world, because she can now, and she'll tell you, feel hot, cold, you can tell them.
I have temperature, hot, cold.
So when you take a shower,
Yeah. Shower, hot water makes my hand gets hot. I put an ice cube on it, my hand is cold. I can rotate my wrist, flex, extend, bend my elbow, everything. My mind does still think I have an arm and hand.
so we are doing a demo at 4 o'clock, Hub 1. If you're interested to come see, it's a computer simulated. The arm is still at Johns Hopkins. We couldn't get it down here. It's $500,000, so they weren't super keen on us taking it. But I have a computer simulated, and you can actually see how she can move that arm. So come talk to her. It's one opportunity to meet someone who's a phenomenal person. So thank you so much for your time. So We're in Hub 1. Bionic Miracle is what we call ourselves, and it's her and I. And love to talk to you. Thanks.
Dr. Ajay Seth, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, thanks.